All right, if you're in your 50s, you're going to want to pay attention to this video. Today, we're talking about 5 risks to your retirement. Really, this rings true at any age, so there's some value here no matter where you're at in your journey towards retirement. Number 1 on my list, saving and investing enough. Of course, this one is always on the list, but especially so when you get into your 50s. You're likely at the point in your career where you're peak earnings. You've been doing really well building your career, and your income reflects that. So it's important to make sure you're saving and investing enough. And also, if you've been doing the heavy lifting of saving and investing all along, your account balance probably reflects that. So compound interest is probably pretty favorable right now. You're working with larger numbers, so as your account balance grows, the interest becomes a higher dollar amount. Why not stack more assets by focusing on how much you're saving and investing now while you're in peak earnings years, okay? Make this work in your favor. You'll be happy you did. If, the more assets give you more flexibility, continue to stack them, continue to save as much as you can, and invest the same way you always have, with discipline. Number 2 on my list, this goes hand in hand with number 1, establishing spending priorities. This is another major hiccup for a lot of families because at this point too, you have commitments. Likely you have family, maybe the kids are in activities, maybe they're in college. That stuff's expensive, right? And we want to do all the things. We want to support our kids as much as we can. There's also travel, fun, experiences, all those other things that we want to do. I completely support all of that. But at the same time, it's important to have some boundaries, right? And set some priorities so that you're not taking away, just because you have great household income, you're not spending too much of it. You're still funding your longer term goals by saving and investing enough. So it's important to establish those priorities and not letting things get away from you just because it feels good. It feels like we have enough. We're just not really sure. You got to take a look at the numbers and kind of create those boundaries. Okay, so spending priorities hand in hand with saving and investing enough. Those are 2 big risks to your retirement when you get to your 50s, okay? Make sure, keep your eye on the ball. Number 3 on my list, being too conservative too soon. If you still have 5, 10 or more years until your targeted retirement date, make sure you stick with your investment plan. Make sure that financial plan dictates how your investments are allocated, not just based on your age. You feel like you're getting older, so maybe you need to be more conservative. You may be giving up a lot of growth potential if you do that when time is still on your side for the most part. Now, it's not to say that if your circumstances have changed, you may need to be more conservative, because we always want to factor in what your unique situation looks like. But in general, if you have a longer time horizon, you're still able to contribute, save, and invest. Just don't go too conservative too soon. That can work against you. Now, on the other hand, if you have less than 5 years to retirement, you need to make sure that you've really buttoned up what you're doing from a risk standpoint, because if you are being too aggressive, it can cost you, right? It may delay your retirement date if the asset values fall and they're no longer to support the amount of income that you need. And I'll throw a bonus in here. Another risk to retirement is concentrated investments. Okay, so this doesn't mean being conservative just by not having concentrated investments. So if you have company stock or you're just concentrated in one asset class, you may be putting yourself at more risk than you should. Okay. And that is definitely something that you want to take a look at. So being too conservative is one thing that we want to avoid, but at the same time, being too aggressive, taking too much risk with concentrated investments, or if you have a really short time horizon, those are all things that play into making investment decisions that are right for your situation. Number 4, not funding various account types. Don't sleep on funding various account types just because you've always done something one way. So for instance, if you have 90% of your assets tied up in a traditional pre-tax retirement account, doesn't mean you should just continue with that plan. We want to take into consideration what your tax situation looks like, but don't sleep on the ability to fund a Roth or taxable investment accounts, okay? Those may be really good things for you to be able to create some tax diversification, create some flexibility in the future, and kind of work with tax rates, in a proactive way. So just depends on your situation, but don't sleep on, the option to start funding different account types just because you've always done something one way. All right, next, let's talk long-term care. So this is a bit of a frustrating one right now. This industry has changed so much. I know long-term care policies have repriced, premiums have gone up significantly, but this is still important to look at right now, okay? So long-term care is a super expensive expense, and it can be really costly to your balance sheet. So it's something we want to take into consideration. Start investigating what options are out there, what may be a good fit for you. Good time to start looking at this stuff is in your mid-50s. You don't have to make a decision, but at least kind of look at it and start getting that ball in motion a little bit of what you may want to do. And the last one on my list, retiring before you're ready. A lot of times we hear about folks that wish they had retired sooner, okay? And that's legitimate as well, but sometimes people retire before they're ready, and that can have significant impact from a financial standpoint, at least. If you're leaving assets on the table, you're leaving income on the table that could be invested, you still enjoy the work. All right, just make sure you're ready. Don't retire too soon, okay? And you always have the option to consider doing something else if those opportunities are out there, right? So if you don't like what you're currently doing and you're not quite ready to retire, investigate, whatever those opportunities are to do something you either like, take on that next career, something a little bit different. Don't be afraid to pivot. So I hope you found this helpful. A couple of things you might consider as you get into your 50s and you want to start planning that successful transition into retirement. If you found some value here, appreciate if you give us a like and a share with a colleague or friend and might also enjoy what we're doing here today. And we'll see you next time.